holding on Daf. Today we're doing Daf Mem Daled Amud Bet. We're holding on Daf Mem Daled Amud Aleph all the way on the bottom, where it says Amar Rav Yosef. So Amar Rav Yosef, Amar Rabbi Shimon bar Rebbe. Hakol Modim. Everyone agrees. Right before in the Mishnah we were talking about. We introduced in the Mishnah a little bit of a machloket of what type of relationship creates a child that's a mamzer. So just to recap, we have three different opinions of what makes a child a mamzer. Rabbi Akiva says any isur in the Torah, any lav, creates a mamzer. So it would be true by any lav, even if it's not karet. Rabbi Shimon HaTeimani holds, which is the opinion of Chachamim, that only an isur karet relationship would create a mamzer. And there's also an opinion of Rabbi Yoshua, which we have not seen yet, but it's brought down in a different Mishnah, that Rabbi Yoshua holds only a relationship that is chayav mitat bedin would create a mamzer. So bottom line of Mem Daled Amud Aleph, Amar Rav Yosef, Amar Rabbi Shimon bar Rebbe, Akol modim machzir grushato. Everyone agrees by machazir grushato, by somebody who takes back their grusha, right? He divorced his wife, she was with somebody else, and then after that relationship was terminated, he took her back. So Shavlad Pagum Lekuna. Everyone agrees that if he has a child from his wife who he took back when he wasn't allowed to, that child is Pagum Lekuna. That child is treated like a halal, and if it's a girl, she cannot marry a kohen. So the Gemara says, Man hakol modim. Who's the one we're saying? Oh, everybody agrees. Who's everybody? Who agrees? Shimon HaTeimani. Shimon HaTeimani. Dafal gav damar Shimon HaTeimani en mamzer mechayve lavin. Even though Shimon HaTeimani holds that a mamzer doesn't come from machzir grushato, because it's a lav, right? Someone who divorces his wife and takes her back after she was with somebody else, that won't create a mamzer. That child won't be a mamzer because it's a lav. It's not karet. So nehi de mamzer lo have, which granted it's not a mamzer, but pagum mihahave. The child is pagum. It has a pagam, and it cannot marry a kohen. It's pagum lekuhuna. So how do we know this? Why are we saying this? Mikal v'chomer me'almana, because I have a kal v'chomer from an almana. So we're going to now show, using a kal v'chomer, that child of machazir grushato, of someone who took back his grusha, is, even though it's not a mamzer, it's pagum for kehuna. It cannot marry a kohen. Now what's the kal v'chomer? From almana. Uma almana lekohen gadol. She'en isura shaveh bakol. Benah pagum. By an almana to a kohen gadol. So you have a widow. She is not allowed to marry a kohen gadol. She's allowed to marry a regular kohen, but she's not allowed to marry a kohen gadol. And if she does, and she has a child, that child is a halal. That child cannot marry any kohen. So almana to a kohen gadol, and almana is a very, very weak isur, in the sense that it's not something that is applicable to everybody. It's applicable only to a kohen gadol. So we would consider it a kal isur, as opposed to other isurim that are across the board. So on the one hand you have almana, and on the other hand we're going to learn machzir grushato from almana. So almana is seemingly a lower grade isur because it doesn't apply to everybody. It only applies to a specific person, to a kohen gadol. Whereas machzir grushato, that applies to everybody. So if the isur that only applies to an almanah creates a child that cannot marry a kohen, for sure, machzir grushato, which is a higher grade isur, should create a child which is not fitting to marry a kohen, not allowed to marry a kohen. So that's the kal v'chomer that we're trying to say. So uma almana lekohen gadol she'en isura shaveh bakol, by an almana to a kohen gadol, a widow to a kohen gadol, her isur is not across the board. It's not applicable to everybody. Nevertheless, binah pagum, if she has a child through that relationship, that child is pagum lekuna, cannot marry a kohen. Zu shisura shaveh bakol, when it comes to machzir grushato, someone taking back his wife after she was with somebody else, which is an isur for everybody, it's equally applicable to everybody. Eino din shebena pagum. Of course, that higher grade isur should create a child which is pagum l'keuna. So the Gemara says ikal mifrach. So the Gemara says that I have three different reasons that this is not true. Number one, ikal mifrach. I have a pircha to this kal v'chomer. I have a way to break apart this kal v'chomer. Mala almana sheken hi atzma mitchalelet. An almana herself, through this relationship, becomes pasul to marry a kohen. Meaning, an almana is not allowed to marry a kohen gadol, but she's allowed to marry a kohen. Right? A lady, her husband died, she can marry a kohen. But if she's together with the kohen gadol, she herself becomes pisula to a kohen now. So you can't say, oh, just like by an almana, that type of relationship creates a child that's pasul kohen, so too any other relationship creates a child that's pasul kohen. No, an almana is herself becoming pasul to a kohen through this relationship. So that's why it creates a child that's pasul for a kohen. But a grusha, a machzir grushato, she's not becoming pasul to a kohen. She's already divorced. She's already pasul to a kohen. And additionally, the halacha is that an almana who's together with a kohen gadol, let's say she comes from a family of kohanim. So when her husband dies, she can go back to her father's house and she's allowed to eat truma like a kohen. Once she's together with the kohen gadol, that makes her pisula and she can no longer have truma. Whereas by machazir gurushato, that's not the case. If a lady got married, and she's a daughter of a kohen, she got married, and then she got divorced, she goes back to her father's house, she's allowed to eat truma. And then she marries someone else, and he dies, she goes back to her father's house, he's allowed to eat truma. Now if she goes back to the original guy who she was with, that doesn't passel her from truma. She's allowed to continue eating truma if he dies or if that relationship is terminated. So that bia that she has with the man who divorced her originally doesn't make her pasul keuna. So that's number one. That this is not a good kal v'chomer from almana to kohen gadol. Why? Because almana to kohen gadol, she herself becomes pasul kehuna. That's why the child becomes pasul kehuna, not by machzir grushato. Ve'od hi toeva ktivein banei toevin. Also, the Gemara says, furthermore, I have a drasha by machzir grushato. The pasuk says toeva hi. So we learn hi toeva, she is a toeva, meaning the isur is on her, the toeva is on her, but her children are not toeva. Her children are ksherim. Ve'od, and also we have a braita that seems to indicate that the child of machzir grushato is kosher to marry a kohen. What's this braita? Tanya, hamachzir grushato. So that's what we're focusing on. A case of machzir grushato. He divorced his wife. She was with somebody else. He took her back afterwards. Va'anoseh chalutzato. Somebody did chalitza to a lady and then he married her. Va'anoseh krovat chalutzato. Or he married the relative of the lady who he did chalitza to. So he did chalitza to a lady and then married her sister, which we learned according to Rabbi Akiva is an isur deoraita.
Is it deoraita if you do chalitza to somebody then you change your mind? You want to get married already?
Yes, that according to everybody is deoraita. Once you do chalitza, that's it. You lost it. Kevan shelo bana, shuv lo yivne. Once you did chalitza to a lady, no more chance for you.
Go back.
If she didn't marry somebody.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
But chalitza cannot go back.
Correct. That's correct. We have a special isur of kevan shebana, shuv lo yivne. Right, once he already took care of the household, that's it. He can't go back. Okay, Rabbi Akiva says, in those cases, ein lo ba kiddushin. There's no kiddushin because Rabbi Akiva holds any isur Torah, kiddushin doesn't work. Ve'enat tzricha himenu get, and if the guy gave kiddushin to machzir grushato or any of those cases, he doesn't require a get. He doesn't even need to give her a get. The kiddushin was never chal. Vei pisula, and she is pasul, and vlada pasul, and the child is also pasul. V'kofin oto lehotzi, and we force him to separate from her. Chachamim omrim, Chachamim say yesh lo ba kiddushin. The kiddushin does work. It's an isur relationship, but kiddushin is tofes. Kiddushin does work in those cases, namely machzir grushato. Vetzricha himenu get. And if he wants to divorce her, she requires a get to go free. She can't just go and marry whoever else she wants or be with somebody else. She requires a get. Vehi kshera, she's keshera. And Vlada kasher, and her child is also kasher. Yeah, so it sounds like we're saying the child of Machzir Grushato is kasher to marry a Kohen. Not like what we said above. So we're challenging what we said above. So the Gemara says, now, Leman, who is the child kasher to? Lav lekuna, aren't we saying that the child is kasher to a Kohen? So the Gemara says, Lo lekahal. No, we're saying the child is not a mamzer. But he's not allowed to marry a Kohen. We're just saying he's not a mamzer. He's kosher to marry somebody. So the Gemara says, Ihachi, if that's the case, it's inconsistent. He keshera leman. We said according to Chachamim, she's keshera and the child is keshera. Now, we would assume that it would be consistent. So when we say she's keshera and the child is keshera, so who's she keshera to? If you're going to tell me, she's keshera, she's allowed to marry somebody in the kahal, she's not a mamzeret, so pshita, that's obvious. If that's the case, that's obvious. That's pashut. Mishum dezania afsela lekahal. What? Just because she had a zanut, just because she was with somebody that she wasn't supposed to be with, that doesn't make her into a mamzer that now she's psula lekahal. Mamzer is not a defect that a person can get by having a bia that's inappropriate. So when it says she's keshera, it must mean she's keshera to a kohen. So elav lekeuna. So midai lekeuna, vladanami lekeuna. For the fact that it says when she's keshera, where we mean she's keshera to marry a kohen, so her child is kasher also means the child is kasher to a kohen. So the Gemara says midi area that you don't have to say that. Hakidita. Each one could be saying its own thing. She's keshera to a kohen, and the child is kasher to a kahal. Maybe that's what it means. Meaning the child really cannot marry a kohen. When it says she's keshera, we're saying, the mother, the machzir grushato, she is, or the nosech haltzuto, or whatever it is, she's keshera to kahuna, but what's it called? She's keshera to kahuna, but the child is not going to be keshera to kahuna. He's going to be kasher lekahal. And the Gemara says they have precedent to learn that way. Hachinami mistabra. It makes sense. There's precedent to learn that way. That each one is saying its own thing. They don't necessarily have to be consistent. How do we know this? Tiktani Reisha hi pisula vevlada pisula. Because what was the first opinion? Rabbi Kiva held that she is pasul and her vlad is pasul. Her child is pasul. So hi pisula leman. Who is she pasul to? Ilem lekahal mishum dezanya. Afsela lekahal. Well, just because she had a zanut, she becomes pasul to the kahal. She becomes like a mamzeret. That's not true. So ella lav lekuna. So when Rabbi Akiva says she's pisula, it means that bia makes her pasul to kiuna. In a case where she wasn't already. Vlada pasul. But when the child is pasul leman, if you want to say that Rabbi Akiva says the child is pasul keuna, halakal kasher, but then that means the child is not a mamzer and they can marry into the kahal. Rabbi Akiva avlad mamzer. Rabbi Akiva said very clearly that the child is a mamzer, right? So Rabbi Akiva holds the child is a mamzer. It has to be that it's inconsistent. Ela pshita lekahal. It must be that the child is pasul to the kahal. So you see that according to Rabbi Akiva, we're saying hakideita v'hakideita. Each one has its own thing that it's talking about. When it says the mother is pisula, it means she's pisula to a kohen, but she's still kashera to the kahal. And when it says the child is pasul, we mean the child is pasul to the kahal. So umidiresha hakidita, just like in the beginning in Rabbi Akiva's opinion, you have to say hakidita. Each the mother is pasul to kiuna, the child is pasul to kahal. So seifanami hakidita. So in the seifa, in the opinion of Chachamim, we could say the same thing and say that the mother is pasul keuna, or kasher to keuna, and the child is kasher to kahal, but it's still pasul to keuna. So that, therefore, from the Braita, we don't have any question on our establishment. Meaning, we could still say that a child of Machzir Grushato is pasul to marry a Kohen. What was the other question we had? We said we had a drasha. The pasuk says he toeva, he toeva, she's a toeva. The Machzir Grushato is a toeva, but not her children. So he toeva nami. That question that you had also. He toeva ve'en tzarata toeva. What it means is she is a toeva, but not the tzara. Meaning the tzara of Machzir Grushato is not pasul to a kohen, but she herself is. Aval banea toevin, but her children, they are pasul keuna. So we have a miut in the pasuk to teach us that she's a toeva, not somebody else. We thought it meant, oh, not her child. Her child is kasher to a kohen. No, her child is also pasul to a kohen. It means she's a toeva, not her what's it called? Not her tzara. Ella almana kasha. Mal almana sheken hi atzma mitchalelet. But the issue that we have is we try to learn from a kal vachomer, from almana, that the child of Machzir Grushato is pasul keuna. We said, just like an almana, that her isur is a lower grade isur, her child is pasul keuna, so too, the child of Machzir Grushato is going to be pasul keuna. But we said no. The child of an almana who's with a Kohen Gadol is pasul. Yeah, together with a, sorry. No, almana to a Kohen Gadol, that child it's a lower grade isur, but the child is pasul keuna. So what's it called? So too, we wanted to say that a Machzir Grushato, that it's a higher grade isur, the child is going to be pasul keuna. But we said no, it's different because almana herself becomes pasul keuna. So therefore, you can't learn from that kal vachomer that the child of Machzir Grushato is pasul keuna. So we don't, as of now, we don't have any clear limud that child of Machzir Grushato is pasul keuna. So we're leaving that. We're throwing out we're leaving that discussion aside. So we don't have any proof that a child of Machzir Grushato is pasul keuna. So ella. So rather, what was the statement that was said? Itmar hachi itmar. If you're going to share the statement, this is how you share the statement. Amar Rav Yosef Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Rebbe. Rabbi Yosef said in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Rebbe, Hakol modim beba'al chayvei kritut. Everyone agrees, even the opinion, well, we're going to see who's everyone agrees. Everyone agrees that if somebody's together with chayvei kritut, shavlad pagum, that the child is pagum, that the child cannot marry a kohen. So, man hakol. Who's everybody agrees? Rabbi Akiva holds the child is a mamzer. Shimon et Teimani and Chachamim hold the child is a mamzer. So who are we saying? Everybody agrees that the child is pasul keuna. So Hakol modim Rabbi Yoshua, meaning the opinion of Rabbi Yoshua. Daf agav Rabbi Yoshua in mamzer mechayve kritut. Even though Rabbi Yoshua holds a regular chayav karet, that there's no mitat beit din, doesn't create a mamzer. Nihi de mamzer lahav pagum yahave. But it is pagum. Mikal vachomer ma'almana. Kal vachomer from almana to a kohen gadol. Ma'almana kohen gadol she'en yisura shaveh bakol bena pagum. Zu yisura shaveh bakol en odin shebena pagum. Right? Same kal vachomer that we had before. If an almana to a kohen gadol doesn't apply to everybody, it's a lower level isur, creates a mamzer. So these chayvei kritut, which are higher level isur, should for sure create a mamzer. You want to tell me like we got out of the kal vachomer before? V'chitema mal almana shekeni asma mitchalelet. And almana is different because that relationship makes her pasul keuna. So hachanami kevan shebaala asa azona. Also by chayvei kritut, that bia makes the lady pasul keuna. If a man is together with a lady, any chayav karet situation, that makes the lady pasul keuna in the future. So if a man is with Eshet Ish and then her husband dies, that lady is pasul keuna, right? She was in Eshet Ish nivala, or any other scenario where someone is with a chayvei kritut, that makes her pasul keuna. So it makes sense that her children will also be pasul keuna, the children of that relationship. Okay, let's go further. Amar Rabba Barachana Amru Yochanan Hakol Modim Be'ev Rovei Kochavim Haba Abad Yisrael She'avad Mamzer. He says everybody agrees that if you have a goy or an eved who's together with a Jewish lady, the Gemara is suggesting that everyone agrees. We're going to see what the halacha is at the end of the day, but the Gemara at this point is suggesting everybody agrees that child is a mamzer.
Why?
So if you have a Jewish lady that became pregnant through a goy or an eved, the Gemara at this point is saying the child is a mamzer. Okay? Man hakol modim. Who are we saying everybody agrees? Who's this everybody agrees? Shimon HaTemani, which is who we paskin like. We're saying Shimon HaTemani. Daf agav damar Shimon HaTemani en mamzer mechayve lavin. Even though Shimon HaTemani says mamzer is only from chayve kritut, not from a lav.
Yeah.
An eved and a goy together with a bat Yisrael is not karet. It's not karet. So why should it create a mamzer? So no. The Gemara explains. Hanimili mechayve lavin de tafsibu kiddushin. Chayve lavin kiddushin still works. So if let's say somebody is a kohen is mikadesh a grusha, so it's a chayve lavin. Kiddushin is tofes, so therefore it doesn't create a mamzer. Aval hacha oved kochavim ve'eved kevan lo tafsibu kiddushin kechayve kiritut dami. Over here, an oved kochavim and eved, those are cases where kiddushin will not work. There's no such thing as kiddushin. If a goy comes and is mikadesh a lady, she doesn't need a get. Or if a man is mikadesh a goya, she doesn't need a get, right? Kiddushin and gitin doesn't apply to these people. So therefore, we'll create a mamzer because they're similar to chayve kritut in that kiddushin it is not applicable. It does not chal. It's not tofes. So that's what we're suggesting at this point. So the Gemara says metive oved kohav ve'abal bad Yisrael havlad mamzer. So we're asking from a Braita. A Braita says a goy and who comes to on a bat Yisrael, the child is a mamzer. And Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda Omer, it's going to be the opinion of Shimon HaTemani, he says, "En mamzer, ela mimishi isuro isur erva ve'onesh karet." Mamzer is only from karet, and this is not karet. So ela.
Who gets karet? Who gets the karet? The lady, the Jewish girl gets karet?
No. Mamzer only comes from karet, and this is not karet. An eved with it's a lav. There's an isur, but it's not karet. So rather we're saying it's not Shimon HaTemani who agrees to this. Ella Amar Rav Yosef Man Hakol Modim. Who agrees when we say everybody agrees that this child of a Jewish lady and a goy father is a mamzer? Rebbe. It's Rebbe. Af agav the Rebbe Omer. Even though Rebbe says that this is only the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, Shaya oseh chalutza ke'erva, the Rebbe makes a chalutza. Rebbe holds that chalutza is like an erva. Velelo svirale. I'm sorry. Spacing out. Mara komodim Rebbe. Afagav the Rebbe Omer en advarim alalu amurim el divrei Rabbi Akiva shaya oseh chalutza ke'erva. Right. So Rebbe. This is a different. We're going to come to this later on, actually, in the next parak. If somebody does chalitza to a lady, and then he marries her, so does she need a get? Does she not? What's the deal? So Rabbi Akiva holds she doesn't need a get. So Rebbe says that's the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. Oseh chalutza ke'erva. Once he did chalitza to the lady, she has a status of an erva. Velelo svirale. But Rebbe himself doesn't hold of that. So even though Rebbe doesn't hold that an isur lav has a status of an erva of karet and kiddushin is not chal, nevertheless, be'oved kochavim ve'eved modeh. Rebbe agrees by a goy and an eved that the child would be a mamzer. The chiyata Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came, Amar Yitzchak bar Rav Dimi mishum Rabbeinu oved kochavim ve'eved abba abad Yisrael havlad mamzer. He said in the name of Rebbe, a goy or an eved that's together with a bat Yisrael, the vlad is a mamzer.
Not these days.
So we have to see what the halacha is.
Yeah.
Right? The Gemara is in there. We have a whole amud to go. I mean, we'll do a few more lines. We'll stop in a couple of minutes. Rabbi Acha, Sar Habira, Rabbi Tanchum, Berei de Rabbi Chia, Ish Kfar Akko. So these two people, Rabbi Tanchum and Rabbi Chia from Akko. Perok hanuhu shiviyuta. They did pidyon shivuim. They freed some captives. There were some ladies that were taken captive, and they did pidyon shivuim. They were able to free them. So datu ma'armon leTiveria. They freed these shivuim that went from Armon to Tiveria. They brought them to Tiveria. So havachada de'abra me'ovei kochavim. One of the ladies that they freed had become pregnant from one of the ovdei kochavim. V'atu l'kameh de Rabbi Ami. They went to Rabbi Ami to figure out what the status is of her child. Amr lu Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Chanina, Amri ovei kochavim ve'eved haba abad Yisrael vad mamzer. He started throwing out names. He said, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Chanina, they all hold that the child is a mamzer. So Amar Rav Yosef heard about this. He said, Rebuta lemechshav gavre. Well, it's like there's some type of advantage by mentioning more names. Like, who cares how many names? I don't care about the names. He's going to agree that that's the halacha, but for a different reason. Right? Harav v'shmuel bebavel, Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, bar kapara be'eretz Yisrael. V'amri la chiluf bar kapara ve'ulei zikenei darom. Damri oved kuchavim ve'eved haba abad Yisrael havlad kasher. He says, listen, I also have names that say the other way around. Rav and Shmuel and bar kapara and Rabbi Yoshua. Some take out bar kapara, the zikenim of the south and Eretz Yisrael. They all hold that the vlad is kasher. So names. If you want to play the name game, I also have names that hold the other way around. So Ela Amar Rav Yosef, Rebbe. Rav Yosef says Rebbe. It's Rebbe. Rebbe's opinion is that the vlad is kasher.
In these days.
There's no difference in these days and those days when it comes.
No, it means I'm talking about
see what the halacha is.
I'm talking about these days. If the girls get married with the goy, the kids is still Jewish, and you could count him as a minion.
We have to get to the halacha, right? According to this, first of all, a mamzer also is counted as a minion. But just the question is, can they marry?
Mamzer counts as a minion?
Yeah, they're Jewish. Okay, fine. So I guess we'll stop here. So we have to remember we're by Dechiata Rav Dimi.